What is going on, everybody? I hope you're having a great weekend. So today we're going to take a look at some eBay auctions that have ended over the past week. One piece sealed product, and then also one single, I think, on this week, and then a lot of high-end slabs that I want to go over. We'll start with the booster boxes, sealed product as always. We have a case of OP09 Emperors in the New World booster boxes in English. This sold in the UK, I believe, for 1,389 pounds sterling, and that comes out to $1,886 USD. 35 bids there. Fairly large seller, Karma TCG. I've definitely seen their listings pop up a few times. I think right now is a great time to be picking up OP09. So if you don't have any or you want to add more to your collection, I think it's reasonable to be picking more of the setup around 125 all the way up to probably 175, $180. I think if you're buying in that range, when we look back 3 to 5 years from now, that's going to end up being a very good investment. So props to anyone taking the leap and getting into OP09. Now moving on, we have a case of Two Legends English. This sold for $1,275. This was coming out of Florida. Again, another fairly large seller, Hobby All Day TCG. You guys already know I'm not a huge fan of Two Legends, but if you're buying boxes around $100, whatever, even if it's not the best return over the next, say, 3 to 5 years, you really don't have too much downside on a box like Two Legends. It's unlikely that this can be at the top of Bandai's priority to reprint when all of these other sets like '09, maybe even '05 again, Pure BO1, EBO2, lots of other sets that they need to put more out of just to bring the price down and make it cheap for players to get the cards. And that's not me saying that everything should be dirt cheap, but it makes sense why Bandai reprints some old sets. And they have a lot more that they need to do this year to get ready for next year when we have the simultaneous releases of English and Japanese product. Now moving on, we have a few more sealed products here. We have a Blue Bottom Romance Dawn booster box. This sold for $1,450 USD. This was coming from the States. Fairly small seller here, only 97 feedback. We have another booster box, Blue Bottom, that sold for $1,325. This was coming from DC Sports 87, and they are a very large store here in the United States. 31 bids on that. Couple more sealed products here. We have a case of OP10 Royal Blood that sold for $1,200 approximately, but $100 a box. It's about right in line with market. And then finally, we have a case of OP11, A Fist of Divine Speed, that sold for $1,375. That comes out to what, like $115-ish per box. So that's fairly cheap for an auction that was through Probstein, 31 bids there. And it kind of just shows that if you're still in the market for one piece product, you can get decent deals right now. You're obviously not going to get the best price on something like eBay where you have to pay tax. Sellers are paying fees, so there's normally higher prices on the platform. But if you look on Facebook, if you're trying to buy boxes, you can find decent deals right now. It's not really like a game such as Pokemon where it's very difficult to be buying anything under market value right now. Even if you buy in bulk, people aren't super willing to give you large deals. So if you're trying to get into One Piece, it's a decent time in my opinion. But we'll now move on to some slabs, and I think there's one single on the list this week. We'll start off big with the gol.d.roger manga in English. We have a BGS 10, not black label, that sold for $4,800 through Probstein auctions. You can see all the subgrades here, all 10s except centering, which was a 9.5, so very close to being a black label. 48 bids. It seems like every week we have one of these selling consistently, somewhere between $4.5 and $5,000. And this isn't even the highest sale of the week. As you guys can see, we had a BGS 10 Pristine again that sold for $5,095.63 through Probstein. 43 bids there. So same card selling for a couple $100 more a few days prior. And I think this is the second week in a row we've seen this gol.d.roger sell for over $5,000 on auction, which is huge. That really is big for One Piece. If you guys remember a couple months ago when I started doing this, the gol.d.roger was selling maybe like $4,500. I honestly can't remember, but it wasn't close to $5,000. I can tell you that much. So even after the reprint or restock of OP09 that we got over the past couple months, this card is still selling very strong, which is good to see. Now moving on, we have the Luffy from OP05. This, for a lot of people, is the card in One Piece right now. And I don't necessarily disagree with that, but it's selling basically at the same price of the Roger right now. It really depends on the day, on the auction, which one's going to go for more. You can see here the subgrades on this, basically the same. Corner, surface, edges, all 10. Center rating 9.5, $4,850 there. We have the gold version in OP11. This is the only single on the list, so ungraded card. This sold for $3,250 Canadian, which is $2,380 USD approximately. Very big sale for a raw card. I think we have a graded version here, PSA 10, directly from PSA for $4,850. So you can see that a PSA 10 of the gold version is selling for basically the same price as a BGS 10 of the original manga from OP05. And to me, that's a little bit confusing. Like, I would expect this OP05 original card to sell for a little bit more, but it seems like people really love the gold card. We will have to see what happens as more of these get opened over the next few months. OP11 is still the newest set that's out, so it kind of makes sense why the cards inside are very, very expensive still. And even if they come down a little bit, if this card's still selling over $4,000 or $3,500, it's still going to be one of the most expensive cards that we have in One Piece. So we really can't complain. The gold card, it's doing great. Awesome. Moving on, we have a signature Ichiro Oda stamped card from OP05. This is the Luffy alt art, and this sold for, I believe if we go to 130 point, $2,200 USD on this card. Best offer taken. I think this is the highest sale that we've seen on the stamped card so far. If you guys remember, way back maybe a month or two, this was going for like $1,700, $1,800. Buy it now, end auction. It's now going for $2,200. And it's really difficult for me to imagine these cards getting much cheaper, considering it's unlikely we get more OP05 on the market. But even if it does drop, say 10, 15%, this is still going to be a very expensive card. Now, next up, we have a Boa Hancock special rare from OP09, Emperors in the New World. BGS 10 Black Label. This sold for 1,100 euros or best offer. If you go to 130 point, it sold for 950 euros, which I believe is approximately 1,100 USD. We also had another Boa Hancock BGS 10 Black Label. This is the manga from OP07, 500 Years in the Future. This sold for $4,550 with 37 bids through Probstein. That is a massive sale on a manga card. And Miss Hancock was not the only waifu card that we saw sell this week. We had a Nami manga from PRBO1. This is another BGS 10 Black Label that sold for $4,350, 10 bids through Probstein. So the Hancock is going for a little bit more. I guess that kind of makes sense, but the Nami is holding up. Nami is a very popular character, this being her first manga. It makes sense why this card is very expensive. Now, a couple more to close out the video. We have a set of PRBO1. This was a God pack, and I believe it's a PSA 10 sequential set, all 10 cards. We could go through the list here and just show you guys all of them, but they're all there. It sold for 14,500 Canadian or best offer. If you go to 130 point, it sold for 13,500 Canadian. That comes out to approximately $9,850 USD. Crazy pull. I'm sure the person who got this was very happy, especially considering all of them got PSA 10s. If you're sending in 10 cards, most of these mangas in Bandai have about a 90% chance of getting a 10, and then maybe like a 8% chance of getting a 9, and then cards under 9s are very rare for Bandai, but there was a decent possibility sending these all in. One of them would have got a 9, but they all got 10s. That's awesome. And we have one more card on the list for today, which is going to be a Blackbeard Tag 10. This is from OP09, Emperors in the New World. Tag cards, I don't think they're as popular as PSA or BGS in the collecting hobby, but I like the look of their slabs. This sold for $2,000 or best offer. 2,000 is obviously extremely high. If you put this into 130 point, you can see here a best offer was taken of $920 USD. It makes sense why the seller listed high though. I imagine that the pop report on this in a tag 10 is very, very low, so they're just shooting for the moon. But that's going to be it for the video this week. You guys let me know in the comments down below which was your favorite auction of the week. Mine, I think it has to be close between the Nami, Boa Hancock, BGS 10 Black Labels that sold, and also the gol.d.roger, if I can find it, that sold for over $5,000, almost $5,100, almost 5.1K there on the BGS 10. I'm still really looking forward to the day we see a Monkey D. Luffy from OP05. show up in a BGS 10 black label, just so we can compare the black label prices on those two cards, because the BGS 10s are selling at a very similar rate right now. If you guys got some value out of this video, I'd really appreciate if you leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It helps out a ton. Also, if you're shopping on eBay, TCG Player, Hobbiesville, I have affiliate links down below. They're free and easy to use. I get a small kickback, so it's a great way to support the channel. With all that said, thank you so much for watching. Stay safe wherever you are in the world, and I'll catch you in the next one.